So welcome back and happy 2020. Thank you for tuning into our first show of Our Schools, Our City. As we ring in a new calendar year and we continue on upon the great work that our students and our staff is doing, we also now have a new group of students in pre-kindergarten and kindergarten that'll be coming to us in September. For many of our students, their educational experience started in Somerville, but for some of our kids, this will be their first educational experience in a more structured environment. So today, we have some really exciting guests that will help parents and families navigate through the sometimes anxiety-provoking registration period and what it takes to become a kindergartner and a pre-kindergarten student in the Somerville Public Schools.
This is really a very important transition.
Sure.
Not just for kids, but for families, and especially if it's a family whose child is this is their first child that's going into the big school.
Correct.
And
Yes.
so we're really excited to have three very experienced experts in helping families transition their kids into what's hopefully will become a wonderful lifelong learning journey.
Great.
So let's meet our guests today. We have Regina Bertholdo, who is the director of the SFLC Enrollment Center, formerly known as the Parent Information Center,
That's
or the
correct.
PreK. Thanks for
Yes.
joining us, Regina. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Also with us today is Jessica Ferris, and Jess is a pre-K teacher at the Healey School in a joint SPS and Head Start classroom. Thanks for joining us again, Jess. And Jess has been on our show numerous times and will bring a really great classroom perspective.
Thank you.
And finally, we have Dr. Lisa Q. And Lisa is the Director of Early Education for the Somerville Public Schools. Thank you very much for joining us, Lisa. We're happy to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so why don't we get started with the conversation? The first question basically is tell us a little bit about yourselves and your role here in Somerville. Regina, we'll start with you.
So I've been the director of the former Parent Information Center, now as SFLC Enrollment Office, for almost 20 years now. And it's very exciting. This is always a very exciting period in Somerville, where families, we had our open houses in December, and families start, looking forward for the registrations. This is a work that we started in July to launch, and all this 6 months work will come to life this weekend when we kick off our registration. And for the past 5 years now, we've been innovative, and we have registration online, which we started on a Saturday, so families can do at the comfort of their homes. And we also have other registration satellites as well, which we'll talk more throughout the show. But excited to be here again and being all these years in Somerville, and it's always exciting and to welcome families to the Somerville Public Schools. It's an amazing job.
Regina, have you been in other positions within the district, or did you start your career here?
No, I was, we had 22 years ago, we had the Somerville Family Network, which then we have community partnerships for children, so everything emerged into being SFLC now.
Okay.
So I was the director of, I actually, here's some history. I started the Parent Information Center. How did I forget that? In 1994, we opened the Parent Information Center. So I was part of the initial group with Sarah Davila, who opened when the Parent Information Center first opened. Then I left Somerville for 3 years. I came back in 1999 as the Somerville Family Network director. Then 2 years later as the Parent Information Center director.
Great.
And I've been here since, always family. And I worked at Somerville Hospital prior to that, so I'm always around community and working with the families.
That's great. So as I said earlier, there's a lot of knowledge and experience that's in this room right now, and it'll be great to hear a little bit about how that translates into supporting families as their kids transition into our schools.
Right, thank you.
How about you, Jess?
So as you mentioned, Susana, I am a pre-K teacher in the Healey Head Start pre-K, where I co-teach with 2 Head Start teachers. And the classroom was created 6 years ago through a partnership between the public schools
Right.
and Head Start, the Community Action Agency of Somerville. And in those 6 years, I've worked with the same co-teachers. So we've had 6 years
Fabulous.
to bond and create like a
Wow.
united teaching style. And every year we get a little bit better. I'm so grateful to have them as my
amazing.
teammates.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We look forward to hearing a little bit about kind of the special nuances
Absolutely.
of your classroom as
Great.
well. And Lisa?
As you mentioned, I'm the Director of Early Education for the district, and that means that I oversee the preschool programs in Somerville Public Schools, but I also am charged with thinking about alignment between Head Start classrooms, hence our partnership with Head Start, with CAS, and with our center-based programs across the city. And I was a preschool or kindergarten or first grade teacher for over 20 years, so I've been on that side of the table, welcoming children into classrooms, so I really understand what it's like for parents to be sending their babies off to school, and what a big leap of faith that is, and that they're entrusting us with the care and education of their children.
That's great. We're happy to have all of you here. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the ways that families can learn about pre-K and K in the Somerville Public Schools? How do we get the word out?
So we do, as I said, it's a work that starts, back in the summer, and we then organize parent meetings. We went to all the Head Start parent meetings. We held 2 information sessions at the Capuano School for pre-K and for kindergarten. We send flyers to all kids in pre-K, 8 currently attending Somerville Public Schools. We send flyers to all daycare centers. We go to meetings in the community to talk about registration and the open houses, encouraging parents to go to attend open houses. To all the health centers. So our outreach initiatives, and then the website.
Right.
This show. So the outreach initiative is amazing. And parents, I think that is already this knowledge in the community that by October, November, you can already call
getting ready.
Exactly.
Yep.
To when are the dates for registration and when it's gonna kick, and where are the open houses dates. So I think that it's already this knowledge in the community, which is great. But so this is all the extensive outreach that we also do.
Great. And you mentioned that this Friday, is it Friday or Saturday?
Saturday.
Is when we'll launch officially open the registration process, right?
Right.
Okay.
We'll open this Saturday, and we'll go until March 21st. So we give parents this several weeks to register. That's what we call the first batch. And then we'll do assignments on the first week of April. But registration is ongoing. We always have new families moving to town, or families who think that they, might not be here next year, and then they end up staying registered late. So registration is ongoing, but we like to have everybody registering on this first batch, so it gives us a sense.
Right.
Planning and projecting on classes and how many kids we're going to have in the following school year.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you. So families know the registration's coming up. Probably their most important question is, what's it like? What is my child going to be experiencing? Can you talk a little bit about what the experience is like?
Well, one thing that's interesting, I spend a lot of time in preschool classrooms, and the big buzz in preschool classrooms from Head Start to public schools to centers is that they're all going to kindergarten next year. And it actually is something kids talk about at lunch. We know families listen to their children talk about it. So the kids are ready. They know there's this thing called kindergarten that's coming up, and when you get 5, that's how we say it. When I get 5, I will go to kindergarten. So they're ready and looking forward to that experience all the time. You hear your kids talking about that?
Absolutely. They're very interested in it.
What about parents?
Parents, I think, can be a little bit nervous. As Chad said, there can be sort of a little anxiety around the process of children going into kindergarten. I think the children in our Somerville Public Schools, it's a little bit more of a seamless process for families. They do have to register, but And then for families coming from Head Start or from center-based programs, or children who aren't in a program, a preschool program at all, thinking about just that experience and being ready. And there's a lot of tips we have for families about helping your child to be ready to go to the big school. Regina mentioned the open houses that happened in December, but you can still call any of the schools
Absolutely, yeah.
and speak with the family liaisons and request a tour. And my office is at the Capuano, and I see people going through every day, and it's probably the best thing you can do as a parent to understand what the building is going to be like and what your child's experience might be by talking to those liaisons and seeing the classrooms firsthand.
You know,
Especially when one of the days of the scheduled open houses was a snow day. So that might had impacted parents'
Right.
plans. But when parents called, the message was always, please call, and in any circumstance, please call the school, speak with the liaison, and set up, every school will be glad to set up a time that's convenient for parents.
That's great.
And I think that's incredible. I mean, because there is anxiety that comes along with it. I'll be experiencing it
Yeah.
when I go to register Sam,
Right.
you know, next week. But I think the resources that we have and what you've alluded to, I think really speaks to we're here to help and make sure that your process and when you register, it's very easy. And if you have questions, we can help answer them for you.
Right.
And one of the things that we've mentioned that we've encouraged families to do in the past is to visit as many schools as you can, because it really is about finding the right fit for your child. And every school has its own unique personality.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun to get to know what the personality of each school is and what might be the right fit for your child.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Jess, I know that your classroom is structured a little bit differently, but can you give us a sense of what a day in the life of a kid
Sure.
or a pre-kindergartner is?
Absolutely. There's some consistent elements that are in all of our classrooms. So the morning starts with a welcome, and arrival usually always includes breakfast,
Yep.
And gives children some time to warm up before they really jump into the day, which is followed usually by some type of whole group meeting to start the day. We call it morning meeting in our classroom. And then that gets us all saying hello to each other and feeling welcomed and part of the class, followed by some play-based hands-on learning that seamlessly integrates different learning content with learning styles, so children can access curriculum in different ways: gross motor, fine motor, listening, writing, drawing. We've had a lot of wonderful professional development. Thank you to Lisa and early childhood coaches to help us have a very consistent delivery of wonderful curriculum that's engaging and is child-centered, and children really enjoy. There's lunch, hot lunch, in the cafeteria, which is kind of a fun big school thing. Go outside, and gross motor play is a huge part of our day. So whenever we can, weather permitting, we are outside and giving a chance for children to get their bodies moving and explore with
great.
nature and be outside, and give them a chance to have those social emotional learning opportunities, which we scaffold and prepare them for in the classroom. Group time where they read a story, some more activities that help them connect with what we're learning and close the day out.
Yeah.
Before you know it, it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's a pretty busy day.
Yeah.
So Lisa, from your experience, how is pre-K or kindergarten different from whatever a child might have been doing before, whether it was structured or unstructured?
The difference between pre-K and kindergarten is
Or
that
the difference between what a child might have been doing before, whether it was playing at home or being in a less structured child care program, and going into pre-K.
So one of the things that we're working on in Somerville is to reach families and providers of a variety of kinds of programs so that no matter where a child comes from, when they enter kindergarten, they're ready.
Right.
And so we work with Head Start, we work with a variety of center-based programs. We've launched a new website, somervillechildren.org, where people can learn about our partner centers. And then we have our seats. We're so lucky in Somerville to have seats in public school classrooms, like Jess's. And so there's a variety of places that children come from. And I think that what we've seen is that children who are in some kind of setting where they're really getting to play, people are reading and talking with them, that they're having a range of experiences, are successful in kindergarten.
Okay. And what are some of the skills that they're going to be gaining when they get into kindergarten or into pre-K?
Into pre-K.
Yep.
So when they come into pre-K, some of the things are just mentioned, sort of the routines of the day, right?
Okay.
So really understanding that there's a thing that we do first and there's a thing that we do second, and we always put our coats in our cubbies this way, and then we come to the meeting area and we gather together. And so really getting a sense of being able to follow those routines, which is what 4-year-olds are ready to do.
Right.
And so it's a developmentally appropriate, is the term we use, programming, so that children aren't being tasked with doing things that are above what we should be asking them to
Right.
do, and at the same time being challenged enough with really interesting questions that we ask them and materials that we offer them that are engaging and pique their curiosity.
Okay.
Great. So we know that for students, it's for the most part is a first school experience, but for some parents it is as well. So do we have any tips that we can give parents on how to best support their children during this exciting time?
Sleep is my number one. It's everyone's number
luck.
one challenge.
Yeah.
We actually are talking about doing some parent education workshops with the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative about sleep and the importance of sleep. And if you've seen any of the banners around town for Shape Up Under 5, we know that sleep is one of the most important things.
Yep.
Parents want it, children need it. And so doing some educating of yourself about good sleep habits and making sure kids get to bed early, and that sleep routine is really consistent, because tired kids can't learn. And tired parents don't. I know when my kids were little, when I was tired, I was not the best parent I could be. So it really is important that everybody gets the sleep that they need. So that's just one piece of things. And then reading to your children is crucial. Do you want to talk about that, Jess?
Or even reading, but also just engaging in those back and forth conversations. So books
Right.
are a wonderful medium for that, but also with you're out at the grocery store, like noticing things together, asking questions that aren't yes or no answers, but like, what do you think about that? Or why do you think that? And to get those back and forth, I know the talk campaign that the SFLC
Yeah.
promotes, there's lots of great resources there to help you get ideas, but talking with your child, their voice, when they realize that you care about it, they'll realize that it's important, and then they'll want to share more when they get to school.
And traditionally people think about the ABCs and numbers, and yes, those are important, and we want kids to be excited about especially writing their names. And so one of the things we often recommend to folks, and the Somerville Partnership for Young Children will be, you may see these around town soon, but we're going to be having some little notebooks and little pencil sets for kids all over town.
Wonderful.
As opposed to a screen or a phone. The research that's coming out
Excellent.
about kids on their parents' phones and on screens is really compelling and impacts negatively how they do in school and in learning. So giving them those opportunities to help you make a shopping list or to draw wherever they are is 100% better than a screen.
That's great.
And I always like to give my 10 cents here worth in this conversation of reading and talking, that
That's
it's
right.
important to speak in any language,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Read in any language. Some parents are worried that if they don't speak English with their kids, they don't learn, they stay behind. No, there are no research that show that. It's actually very good for the child's brain. So speaking another language should not be a shame, should be something that your child should be proud of.
Absolutely.
So reading books and speaking at home in different languages, it's okay. It's great for your child.
Sure. Well, those are great tips.
Yeah.
And part of it is about creating some type of routine for the child, right? Or helping the child develop some type of routine. Some of the tips that I've heard in the past is make sure that you visit the park where your child is going to be attending school, so that they become comfortable with it, they become familiar with it, and maybe they'll get to meet some other kids that will be attending that school as well.
And for incoming kindergarten students in June, we'll have Transition Day. And parents walk out of there with a lot of tips as well.
great.
So they will meet their teacher, their school, the principal. They'll meet some of the specialists in the school, but also they walk out of there with a lot of tips as well. So it's important. Transition Day, it's a very fun day, and
Good.
kids get it's something to look for during the summer, where they're going to be starting in school.
That's
I mean,
wonderful.
being at Winter Hill for 7 years, I've seen that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when parents first walk in with their children, there's that nervous energy. And then as they start to go around and visit and see what the school's about, you can see shoulders go down. You can see the anxiety go away. So I think it's such a great, great process.
Yes.
Are there opportunities for parents to engage with their children during the school year and during the school day?
Oh, absolutely. So in the mornings in pre-Ks across the district, 8:15 to 8:45 is breakfast time, and in most classrooms or in the school setting, parents are welcome to stay as long as they're able to. So sometimes parents don't have to rush off to work, but if that time doesn't work with you, if you have anything that you want to share to be in the classroom, read a book, do an activity, sing a song in your home language if you don't feel comfortable in English, something. Parents are very welcome, and especially with Head Start, that's one of the things that is kind of like a tenet of their program, so we bring that into the classroom and very much welcome family engagement. There's usually events to celebrate learning as well, which are at least 2 or 3 times a year. We often call them family breakfasts, where we use that opportunity to share child work and something that they've been working on for a long time, a project, and families come in, and it's a wonderful time. I've enjoyed them so much. Families come, share food, and just revel in what their children have done.
Good.
Very proud.
Good. So what are the biggest concerns that you've heard from families as they prepare to bring their children in, and maybe in the early stages of their kids being in school? And how do we address them?
One thing that I notice is that parents will say, my child isn't doing this yet, or whatever it is. It's a myriad of things, but no matter what it is, I can say from my experience, and other teachers have said, wherever your child is at, we'll meet them there. So I have children who are at all different ranges of learning styles, but we modify. We're constantly fixing things and tweaking it. So wherever your child is at, we'll meet them there and we'll help them get to the next step. So it's okay wherever they are, because that's why they're coming to school.
Yeah.
And I also hear parents ask me during some of the information sessions, they talk a lot about, will my child be tired? Isn't it such a long day? And along those same lines of what Jess just mentioned, teachers know that when kids come in, that the beginning of the year looks very different than the end of the year. And there's built-in time for rest. The pace is a little just slower at the beginning of pre-K and K, so kids have time to build that stamina.
So one final question. Did you have something that you wanted
did
to?
not.
Okay. Because believe it or not, we're getting close to the end of the
Oh
show.
my God.
One final question for all of you. At the end of the year, what do you hope that students and parents will remember about their first year in school, whether it's pre-kindergarten or kindergarten? Who wants to start?
I can start. Well, I just hope that families and children feel like they're seen, that their identities are recognized and celebrated, but also that people love them here at school. Like, we're happy when they come to school. We're sad when they're not at school, and that they've created a relationship with teachers and other children and the school to lay a positive foundation for the rest of their learning career, and hopefully a love for learning, a lifelong love for learning. And I want them to come back and visit.
That's great.
As much as they can.
What Jess said.
Yes.
And just to build on that last part, that really that children see themselves as capable and competent and confident learners, and that they know how to be a good friend and have friends. Those, I think, are, we're not talking about all the academic skills. Those will come, but when a child sees themselves as a competent and confident human, they're going to be great in the world.
That's great.
Good point.
And it really is about building those social emotional skills and like you said, the academic piece will come once you build those skills. That's great. Regina, what about you?
I hope the parent, the whole family feels welcomed in the school, and that they have had opportunities to build community as well. As we know, This is a city where we have newcomers coming every day, so going to school, it's very important that out of there, community branches out, because that's
Right.
when they're going to be meeting their future friends, parents, and kids. So the feeling of being welcomed, I think it's very important.
That's great. Chad, what about you? You were in the school environment for many years, and
Sure. Probably the most important thing is I hope that they've had a true, authentic experience where they were able to grow as individuals and also as community members. I think that for us was always a staple of what we looked for at
that's
the end
great.
of the year.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I would echo what Lisa said. Is I just want them to have this love of learning and be wanting to learn and absorb as much information as possible for the rest of their lives.
Sure.
So believe it or not, we're close to the end of our show. So I just wanted to offer a couple of quick reminders before you close the show. A reminder to follow us on social media. Visit our website to learn what's happening in our schools and in the district. And we have Martin Luther King Jr. Day coming up on Monday, May 20th. All schools and district offices will be closed that day. But we invite you to the annual Mlk Day Celebration, which will kick off at 10 o'clock in the morning at the East Somerville Community School. It's a great family event. It'll include music, readings by student essayists, and a keynote speaker. So we hope that you can join us at that event.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us today. We hope that 2020 brings you health and happiness. We want to thank our amazing guests, Lisa, Jess, and Regina, and also our phenomenal crew, Steve DiCarlo, Joe Constantine, Lenny Scoletta, and Ben Martin. But most importantly, we want to thank you, our viewers, for being our partners in the important work that we do with our Somerville youth. So until then, remember that Somerville leads the way.
That's right.
So make